I'm back. Knowing I'm doing this spontaneously is helping me actually get out and do it when I feel like it. Again, we want to be flexible and do that pivot thing. So I think this is going to be short. I just keep thinking that I want to share with you guys some of the key prophecies of our times. I keep referring to it. I keep saying that prophecies are coming true, and if you knew them, you would know. But I want to go over a few with you, and I'm going to refer you to a website that you'll either love it or hate it, probably, that we created, I think in maybe 2008, something like that. During the or 2009, there was a war in Israel again, and we were still living in America. So I wanted to do something, and this is what we did. So it's called www.thetruthaboutisrael.org, www.thetruthaboutisrael.org. You can poke around there. It's not PC. It's also very inclusive because we're all in this together. So I'm going to just go over a few of the prophecies with you from that. That's going to be the live stream for today. I don't have so much time. Actually, at the top of the next hour, I'm going to be doing a pre-record with Gila Jed, and we're going to be talking about more on the esoteric end of things, I think. I think that's what she wants to talk about, how it is that we can remain ourselves, not merge back into the one, and yet be one with the one. So that's a little more subtle. But anyway, so before I actually go into the specific prophecies, I want to mention that the Torah explains that there's a difference in a general sense, a general difference between the role of the Jews and the non-Jews as nations. Now, as people, like, we have male and female, we have people of all types, all personality types. We all contain everything within us. We are in a state of what's called in Hebrew hiskalalut or hitkalalut, inter-inclusion. So we're made up of holographic is a good word for it. We're made up of we're each, like every cell contains the whole of the cell. Hey, good morning. Is that JD? I need the glasses to read the chat, quite honestly, even though I like to pretend I don't. Hi, JD. Anyway, so we're all made up of, everything contains everything. That's the bottom line. So we all have all of these there was one man originally, that was Adam, and it turns out he was male and female, and God separated the male and the female so that they could ultimately have a conscious relationship instead of an unconscious oneness. These are all deep concepts, not going there right now. The point is that we're not radically separated in terms of what we're here to do on an individual basis. That's a deep individual calling, but in general, as nations, the Jewish nation has a specific mission unique to it and the rest of the world, all the nations of the world. And by the way, if you did not know, the word goy, which seems to be controversial, simply literally means nation. Nation. That's what it means. So the Jewish nation has one particular special mission, and the rest of the nations have a different special mission, and it goes as follows. The special mission of all of the nations of the world, and obviously this includes Jews, is to create justice and righteousness, to make the world an habitable, sustainable place in which human life and a divine world where human life can thrive. Like, that's the simple world of no hunger, no jealousy, no competition, no war, no poverty, where instead of trying to wipe out the competition, we collaborate with each other. Instead of seeing someone as my enemy because they have a talent that I don't have, I can see them as my asset because we're all in it together, and many people make up one larger super system. So that's the mission, the divine mission. We will get into prophecy momentarily. That's the divine mission of everyone, to make out of this messed up world an inhabitable, sustainable, just world where we can grow, where we can thrive, where we can begin to morph more and more into the image of who we truly are. That's the image of God. The primary unique mission of the Jewish nation, and again, everybody has elements of everybody, we're holographic, but the primary mission of the souls of Israel, let's say, is to carry the Torah, to hold on to the Torah throughout every possible experience of persecution, which has happened, hopefully never will have to happen again, proving that invincible, inextricable, inexorable connection between those souls and the Torah, which is God's light, God's wisdom and will, and to bring that light into the world. Now, I was just watching an interview where two people were talking about, happened to be, I don't know if I'm very glued to all kinds of stuff. For 7 years or something, I've been watching a lot of YouTubes, going down a lot of rabbit holes. This happened to be between Cliff High, who I have some issues with, and Rafi Farber, who I never met before, I never saw before, but they were discussing all of this, like, what is the mission here? How are we here to change the world? So Rafi said that he believes that the Jewish people are here to bring morality into the world. And Cliff said, how do you think that's going for you? And Rafi said, well, we're not doing that well. I think we're failing right now, but we will eventually succeed. So here's the thing. Every single human being on the planet, every single human being who has been on the planet, but especially now, we are here to be a better version, to become a better version of who we are. We're here to become our upside. We're here to use these challenges to bring out our hidden powers. That's the world of transformation. And that's what we're all here for. So our mistakes, as we don't live up to that, we get consequences. They're natural consequences. And as we do, hopefully those consequences will turn into more exciting, you could call them rewards, but really it's not even, reward and punishment is a very primitive way of looking at life. God's not here to reward us and punish us like we're little kids. That's a very immature stage of understanding. We're here to see, like adults, that our actions have consequences. We're here to understand laws of cause and effect. So anyway, that's what prophecy is about too. So let me go straight there. Again, if you came on a little later, I mentioned a website that my husband and I put together in, I think, 2008, and it's called thetruthaboutisrael.org. You have to have the, and it's not com, it's org. www.thetruthaboutisrael.org. So if you want to go there now, feel free. If you can do that without hanging up. Anyway, so here we have the first, the top of the page, the banner. It's a picture of the Western Wall, which is the retaining wall, what's left of the retaining wall that used to hold the first temple and the second temple, both temples. It's around the Temple Mount, called the Western Wall. It used to be called the Wailing Wall because people go there and they beg for salvation. They beg for blessings. They pray. I think I just saw a picture of Ivanka Trump there from yesterday. They must be in Israel. But anyway, there are huge groups of non-Jews from all over, the Japanese, African, American, European, obviously Jews as well. It's a house of prayer for all nations, and it will be rebuilt soon. But anyway, on top of that picture, we have in Hebrew, Bereshis bara Elohim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz, that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And v'haaretz haisa tohu v'bohu v'choshech al pnei hamayim, v'ruach elokim rechepes al pnei hamayim. Sorry, choshech al pnei tahom v'ruach elokim rechepes al pnei hamayim. So this describes the initial state of creation, that God created the world. He created this multiverse in a moment, in an act of innovation. And the way this initial state in which the world was created was what's called tohu and vohu. Tohu means chaos. Vohu, void. Like, what is the nature of the world that God created? How did he first create worlds? By hiding himself. So that means like a void. When the word in Hebrew for void, for corpse, it was actually not the same word, but halal. But what is that idea of a void? When something had something and now that thing is missing. So the world was created in a way of chaos, concealment of the truth, and something missing. And there was darkness on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God, it says, the Spirit of God, Ruach Elokim rechepes al pnei hamayim, the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And the premier commentary on the Torah, Rashi says that refers to Ruach Hashem Melech HaMashiach. That is the Spirit of the Messiah, the Messianic Redeemer. So the world was created for the Messianic era, for the redemption, for the Geula was created for these times. Now, about prophecy. The Torah explains, and you can see this with me. I'm on this website and I clicked about prophecy. So the Torah explains that every positive prophecy must and will be fulfilled in literal actuality. Why? because every positive prophecy is God's vision. God's like, let me create a world, let me create a multiverse. And at first it's going to be tohu and bohu, it's going to be chaos and void. And then things are going to happen. And I'm going to pit people against each other and against themselves. And that starting with Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were created male and female. God separated them in a process called Masira, which instead of being back to back, as the Torah says they were, unconscious relationship, now they were face to face. And that caused some issues. Where you had one, now you have two. But ultimately, when you have two, instead of being in conflict, they can work it out and become in conscious union. That is an exact metaphor, parallel, fractal for how God created the souls. Male, God is male and female and beyond gender, obviously, but male and female also represent giver and receiver, not literally, but that's the archetype. And so God did the Nasira between his male and female attribute. The female attribute became the Shekhinah and the source of the souls, the root of all of the souls. The Shekhinah came down into creation. And now we're working it out. We're working out the relationship, but really we're one. So anyway, God creates conflict in order to help people grate up against each other. How is it that you polish a diamond? You rub, you grate. How do you smooth out wood till it's like satin? You grind, you sand. So this is how life is against us, and this is how we are against each other. But the purpose is that we should create conscious union, reunion and union on a way that we cannot, on a level that we can't even really imagine. Anyway, every positive prophecy must and will be fulfilled literally because it's God's vision. That's why the world is being created. God is it. God is the ultimate and only isness. Everything that exists, including you and me, are pieces of that in costumes and costumes that conceal. So that will be, and it already is, just has to manifest and emerge into the physical plane. Now, what about negative prophecy? So we can be happy. We can't miss the boat on a positive prophecy. Yes, we can take the scenic route, which we already have way too much, in my opinion, but everything will come to be. It has to. That's the whole purpose for everything. So what is the path that we'll take to that? And that's where negative prophecy comes in. So negative prophecy doesn't have to be fulfilled physically, even though many times it has been, because the purpose of negative prophecy is to keep us on track. The purpose of negative prophecy is like a warning, a signpost, a mile marker, a course correction. You can call it punishment if you want to, but that's a primitive way to look at it. That is coming from a very immature, like I said earlier, misunderstanding of what's really going on here, who you are, who we are, who God is, what this is. This is it. This is, how do I say this? This is where all of the action that exists anywhere on any plane, any dimension, any reality, this is where it is right here. So we need to understand it, take it seriously. And also, when we understand it, we can also be more peaceful and lighthearted. So in being serious about taking seriously what's actually happening in our own influence, we can lighten up because we know that we're in something that is going to move, that is moving, and that every move that we make has a quantum effect as well. So the negative, like I said, is a warning, a course correction, allowing us, catalyzing us into shifting a direction or seeing something in a bigger way or growing and changing. So all prophecy is in order to take us, it's all the pathway, the direction, the map taking us from history to destiny. So now let's just go straight in. I'm not going to read with you every one of these, but I'll read several of them and explain them. How, this isn't the language of the newspapers. This is the language of the Torah. So you have to know a little bit about how to interpret it. For those of you who know our comms. So in the future, 70 princes, this is from the Zohar, from all over the world will unite with the masses to attack Jerusalem and plot against God. They will plan to battle him, then fight over his people and temple. But God, he who sits in heaven, will laugh and mock them. This is from Psalm number 2. The Rebbe actually talked about this. You can look it up, the Lubavitcher Rebbe on Psalm number 2. And talking about how people will have to have it out. Why 70 princes? 70 princes, there's 70 is a very, very crucial number in the Torah. But in our context, 70 represents the core number of nations. Remember I said Goy equals nation. The Jewish nation is also Goy. nation. It's Goy means nation, Goy Kadosh. So 70 nations will unite with the people, will rile up people to go against God. Now, in our times, although we still have war, let's already know it's horrible that there's still physical war. Mostly wars are fought in media. Wars are fought with CGI. There are a lot of people going around saying that we're watching a movie right now, even though there are real consequences. We're in the movie. But a lot of it is scripted, a lot of it is fake, a lot of it is psyops, a lot of it is designed to get our consciousness in line with whomever's agenda. So it's very interesting to me, this prophecy. This is one of the many descriptions of the war of Gog and Magog, Gog and Magog, if you're familiar with that pronunciation. So many of these prophecies, remember what I said about positive and negative prophecies. So the positive must come true, the negative just have to have their effect. They don't have to come true literally. So back in, let me think, when was it? When Obama left office. So that was 2016. One of his 16. One of his last actions was to get together the United Nations and to vote that Jerusalem didn't belong to the Jewish people. Now, this prophecy says that 70 princes will unite with the masses to attack Jerusalem. One of the core features of Gog and Magog of this war is that there will be an attempt to take Jerusalem away from the Jewish people. Jerusalem is the heart of the world. I told you the temple is a heart, which is the picture of the retaining wall of the Temple Mount, the Kotel, the Western Wall, is on top of this website, truthaboutisrael.org, thetruthaboutisrael.org. So the temple, I said, is a house of prayer for all nations. In the olden times when the temple, before the temple was destroyed, second temple was destroyed by the Romans, nations from all over the world, representatives from all over the world would come and bring donations, sacrifices to the temple, because that brought peace to their nations and the world. So we are one organism. All of humanity is one organism. We're a superstructure, and things have to be in their place. And the temple has to be in its place, and the souls of Israel ultimately will be in their place. Many of us are, although it's not really acting so much like our place yet. And we're grading against each other and our circumstances and working it out. We're getting better at what we're here to do, all of us, or we're getting worse. That would be like the negative prophecy, but we're meant to get better. So when they voted in Obama's, one of his final acts in office, when they voted to take Jerusalem, that Jerusalem doesn't belong to the Jewish people, to Israel, which is such a cynical joke. There were 70 nations that voted that Jerusalem doesn't belong to the Jews, 70 princes, 70 nations, and the US didn't abstain, they voted against. Okay, so I, at the time, was very relieved because this could have been a lot worse. And who knows what's going to happen? It's not over yet, but that was definitely a mile marker that could have happened a very different way and didn't. Okay, I'm going to skip some of these about the children of Ishmael, the king of Persia, Iran. See, we don't know. Again, when it comes to negative prophecies, we don't know how it's going to unfold. And we do know that, we have to know that our actions, our speech, our thoughts, our prayers, our intentions make a huge difference, because our consciousness creates. It's all about our consciousness. All of this is for our consciousness. All of it. All of it. So the king of Persia, which, if you don't know, equals Iran, and king always means the ruler. A king in Torah means somebody who has the power over an army, the power over life and death. So it says the king of Persia. This is a very famous, actually, from something called the Yalkut Shimoni, that the king of Persia will bring destruction to the world. I'm not going to read it because maybe we've already had it on some level, or maybe we're going to skip it on the physical level, hopefully. But Persia figures prominently in end days prophecies. Not necessarily. Everybody knows Iran and Israel are always talking about battling it out. The prophets say that the US and Persia might be involved in something. Now, it could be that when Trump nullified the quote unquote peace treaty with Iran, could be that war was, fought and won. I don't know. Prophecy is malleable. We have to know. But what I do want you to see is the end of this little excerpt, where everybody becomes outraged, confused, in pain, and not knowing where to go. I mean, I feel like that all the time. Where should I go? Should I go on a trip to America, see my family, my kids and baby grandchildren, or should I stay here? Like I had that one 2 years ago when I didn't know if I would stay in Israel, get locked out, and have to locked in, or I'd leave and get locked out. And some people did. Anyway, it's crazy times, and that's why God will answer. God says, my children, don't be afraid. And this is a prophetic message to everyone here. So share this with your friends. My children, do not be afraid. Everything I've done for you. Why are you afraid? Don't fear. The time of your redemption has arrived. So these are signs of redemption. Okay, I'm going to go forward and just do the last two. In the future, God will revive, reincarnate, and reinstate all of the kings, remember that means rulers, who oppressed the Jewish people and ruled Jerusalem. So some of these is listed here in the Zohar: Adrianus, Lupinus, Nebuchadnezzar, Sanherib, and others who destroyed his house. What does that mean? Those who destroyed the temple. The destroyers of the temple are the worst villains. Pharaoh is one of these. Amalek is one of these. All basically, Haman is one of these. All of the real bad guys. And there's some who are much more recent. There's some who are, anyway. The Zohar says they'll all be reincarnated in in our times, even though they all existed in their own era, in their own time. But this is the grand showdown, and this is when they're all coming back, and they're coming back for a reason. So that gives a whole new meaning to the phrase, "You're watching a movie." We're watching a movie. Not only, many people say that there are white hats here who are who are just letting events play out, even though they've, some major progress has already been made because people have to wake up. So when you think about the word white hats, you can substitute it with God, creator, because God operates through people. That's how this show works, just like in a movie. The director, the writer, the producer, they operate through the actors and the props. That's happening here. The goal is for us to wake up. Our consciousness must awaken and expand. So all of these players who were fighting against God, and you can say that anybody who wants to destroy the temple, anyone who wants to exile the Jews again, is fighting against God, maybe by ignorance, maybe by malice, who knows, depends on the person. But these big players, as the Zohar says, will all be reincarnated. So you can be sure that they're reincarnated now. They're adults. They're in some kind of role, because we are at the end times. We're at the end game. They will unite with other nations, and then God will take his action upon them, like he did at the splitting of the sea with Pharaoh's army. And we have to understand another thing. Before I go into the final, I want to go through what the Talmud says, because this is where it really comes home to our actual environment today. You have to understand what these things mean. So we have to know that no matter how much we see through the curtain, no matter how much we believe that there is a quantum financial system, that there are people, good people, who are way, way, way more progressed in their good actions, positive actions, than they're letting show. And I do actually believe those things. No matter how much, no matter how good things are evolving toward being, we have to understand that part of the end game is that the world will connect with God. The world must know that there is a God, one God, the source of everything, creator of heaven and earth, the only true being, that everything that exists, spiritual and physical, is that one true being, that ultimate isness in costumes. We have to understand that there's a God. That's number one. That God has a plan and a will. That's number two. These are steps. Number two, God has a plan and a will. And that plan and will is recorded in the Torah. Now you have to know how to understand the Torah. You can't just read it. It is developed as a complex document with many, many layers of code, all of which were given to Moses on Mount Sinai. But in any case, on a simple level, the simple, 10 commandments, or the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, the 7 laws that were given after the flood, that were given to Noah. Before the flood, the people were perverted. The animals, the Torah records, it says in the Bible itself, in the Old Testament, even in English, in all languages, that everything had perverted its ways, and it was irredeemable. The evil was so thick, dense, ego-based that it was impossible to work with. So there had to be a flood, and almost everything was destroyed, except for the creme de la creme, and they had things to work out also. Noah and his sons and their wives and their descendants and all of the animals that were kept in the ark, and that restarted things again. But because the people did not realize that there were basic laws, so those laws were given, there were 7 basic laws that were given to Noah for all mankind. All mankind. If you've heard the word Noahide, some of you have and some of you haven't, that's a derivation. It's not a Torah word, but it's a derivation of the phrase from the Torah, B'nai Noach, or Ben Noach, the children of Noah. That's every human being who's alive on the planet today, ever was, ever will be. I mean, ever was since the flood. Everyone's descended from Noah through one of his 3 sons. So all those 7 laws apply to every human being. Those are the basic 7 laws. Remember, I said that the primary mission of the nations of the world is to create a world of justice and righteousness so that human beings can thrive and so that God's plan can start to flow through. So we need that level playing field. We need that basic goodness, and that is recorded not specifically in the 10 Commandments, because the Sabbath and so forth. The 10 Commandments, yes, but the 7 Noahide laws of Noah, those are the 7 basic platforms that are required for a divine world, because those are the 7 laws that allow us, and they have complex details to them, but those are 7 laws that allow us to have a world that is sustainable, into which divinity can flow and reveal, and miracles can happen, and all those wonderful prophecies of how it will be can manifest. But this is our job. I keep saying this throughout this live, that we need to work on ourselves. None of us is as we, I don't like to use the word should, because, on another day I'll tell you that you don't have to earn your keep here, but that's a different story. That's on a different plane. We want to reveal who we are, not try to force ourselves to be something we think we should be, because if we reveal who we truly are, we are already who we should be. Beneath all this ego stuff and this grading, what's happening, we are revealing through who we are. Through the challenges, we're revealing the truth about ourselves, the deeper self, the godly self. And that's the purpose of everything that's happening now. Bottom line, though, we still need to work it out. And this is the purpose of all of what's happening right now. So here we go into the Talmud, and this will be the last piece of prophecy we'll do today. In the footsteps of Mashiach, the Hebrew word for Messiah, means anointed one, insolence will increase. Insolence will increase, an honor dwindle. Have you seen any TikToks or Twitter videos lately, or Facebook? Have you seen people walking into stores and starting to swear at other people and beating up televisions because their team didn't win? And what? Insolence will increase. There's never been insolence like this. Maybe before the flood, maybe. And honor will dwindle. I mean, there are people, probably you guys are among them, who care about your honor and doing the honorable thing, but that is not a value among many anymore. And that's a prophecy. The vine will yield its fruit abundantly, but wine will be expensive. So that doesn't just mean vine and wine. That means that there will be inflation. That means that check this out. That means that there will be abundant goods available of all sorts. But what? Supply chain interruptions, disruptions, artificial inflation, manipulation of the money supply and the goods, artificial shortages. This is a prophecy of the times, and it's happening now. Back in the day of when this was written, only the most holy, wise seers could see, anything of what would happen. Now it's happening in front of our faces. So we have to know that this is divine. Yes, it's a really good idea, and I want to talk about things like this in future lives. It's a really good idea. I'm just going to say there will be a financial crash. There will be a stock market crash. That is inevitable. There will be a new financial system. There will be times of chaos. There already, I get on Amazon. I'm in Israel. I try to organize. I try to order things, and everything that I want pretty much is out of stock. Don't know if it will ever return. Out of stock. Don't know if it will ever return. One after the other, after the other, after the other. Why is that? I don't know. Is it real, artificial? I don't know. But it's going to get worse, because it has to. Because for the new to arise, the old has to break apart, and the old is corrupt and sick and done. So it's good to have some silver if you can get that. It's not very expensive right now. It's good to have some food. It's good to have some without being afraid. It's just a smart thing to do. If you want to know more about this, if you want me to bring on any guests that talk about these things, let me know. That's in general, but also about this. Oh, here comes the sun. Okay, next, the government will turn to heresy. Ooh, how about that? The government will turn to heresy, and there will be none to offer them reproof. Okay, that's definitely right in front of our faces in ways that we could not have even imagined 5 years ago. So how did they lock down the whole world in 5 seconds? There were none to offer them reproof. Where were the good guys there? Where were the good governments? Looks like every government has been in on it, whatever it is. The government will turn to heresy. There will be none to offer them reproof. The meeting places will be used for immorality. This refers not only to government, but also to religious meeting places, and places where people gather to make plans. We should gather to make plans that are good for everyone. That is not so hard. I just want to say, unless the agenda is otherwise. I don't know how many of you remember 2008, the TARP thing. So I remember it really well because it was really the first time that I got or at least the first time I can remember in this, where I got involved. I called a bunch of senators and Congress people because I listened, for some reason. I was out walking and I listened to I guess it was the congressional hearings. I don't remember. And I could not believe what I was hearing. Like there were people getting up. Was it Ben Bernanke? I don't remember anymore exactly, but people, leaders were getting up and saying, we've got to make the people scared. They have to know that the whole thing will crash if they don't do what we say. And it was so obvious that there was some kind of huge scam, because if they had wanted to, if it was a problem, if they'd wanted to just bring money back into the system, they could have given the money. It was like the subprime mortgage crisis. They could have given the money to people. They could have given $200,000 to everybody, every citizen, let's say, of the US, every citizen of the world. They're printing money anyway. And we could have spent it and it would have brought prosperity to the whole system. And those who needed to pay off the mortgage could have had it for that. And those who didn't need it for that could have had it for something else. They didn't do that. They gave it to the banks to perpetuate the system. And and I called every person that I called probably 5, 8, I don't remember, senators, Congress people, to protest, to say, I'm not in favor of TARP. I want you to vote no. And I asked, when I spoke to their secretaries, of course, it was just the secretaries, what are their calls coming in? Oh yeah, the phone's ringing off the hook. We can't keep up. What's the general sentiment? They said 100 to 1 against, but they voted for it anyway. Okay, that's the meeting places being used for immorality. Okay, I'm going to skip. The Galilee will be destroyed, the Gavlan cities along the border desolated. I mean, this is specific to Israel, and without going into specific details, borders of Israel have been compromised. The inside of Israel has been compromised, where land has been taken away, where Jewish homes have been destroyed and given to terrorists. And I literally mean this. There are terror organizations that have been sustained by the Israeli government, and those like the Gaza, that was a beautiful, beautiful garden. Gush Katif, they full of greenhouses, and they forcibly, with clubs, removed like men, women, kids from that area, gave it to people who immediately destroyed the greenhouses and put in rockets and started raining them down on kindergartens. I'll say something else also. I haven't talked about this really before, I don't think, online. I've been holding back somewhat, but I don't believe that it's any of the people. I can't say it's no people. I mean, they're evil people you can find evil people anywhere, but I don't believe this is being sustained because there is a war of tribes or a war of, people against people. I think that this is all part of the meeting places that are used for immorality, that are plotting this, pitting us against each other for their own aims. And I think that's happening here as well. And it's caused tremendous devastation and loss of life on all ends for all people involved, and a decrease in the quality of life, and a decrease in prosperity, and destruction of property, and destruction of peace. And it's all because this is a war. And back to the first prophecy listed here, that in the future there will be 70 princes from all over the world that you will unite with the masses to attack Jerusalem and plot against God. That's what's happening. And that's happening in every government. And it's happening through politics and military and economic and medical and cultural. And the way they unite with the masses is they pit the masses against each other. We're like the bears in the ring. You know, those old bear fights? And the kings and nobles would watch the animals fight and they'd laugh, you know, oh, that bear really ripped a big chunk out of that lion, and that's so funny. And that's what's happening. And we have to wake up and understand that we're not against each other. We're all with each other. But who is with God and who is against? And we have to become wise. I want to say also the prophecy of Daniel that talks about the times when everything will become clarified, and the foolish will not understand and the wise will understand. We all need to become wise, because if we're not wise, we're inadvertently supporting the wrong team. And this is a divine war. So that is not a good thing to do. Not a good thing to do at all. Without wisdom and understanding of what's actually happening here, which you cannot get from anybody's opinion. You're not going to get it from the news. You're not going to get it from, I've got to get something to block out the sun at this time of day. You're not going to get it from, your local talk show host. You're not going to, because this is in prophecy and this is in the Torah, which is the blueprint of creation for all mankind. So we have to understand who are the players. Remember, everybody's coming back. Remember, I read that from the Zohar right before I went into the Talmud. In the future, God will revive, reincarnate, reinstate all the kings who oppressed the Jewish people and ruled Jerusalem. Now they might be mayor of a city in Germany. They might be the prime minister of some country somewhere. They might be the head of an institution or a bank. They might be the head of a pharmaceutical company. Who knows what roles everybody's playing? What we need to know is the roles that we're playing and what is the nature of the war that we're fighting. That is what's crucial for us to know. Okay, better move on. Sorry about this. I will work out a solution for this. Okay. So the people from the border will wander from town to town without anyone to take pity on them. That actually happened here in Israel, but I'm sure it's happening in a larger sense, many places, that people's homes were destroyed with the promise that they were going to be replaced with beautiful homes elsewhere. Many, many years later, many people are homeless. So lies, perpetrations. The wisdom of the learned will degenerate. How about that? Remember the idea from the books, from the fairy tales, where the elders, now it's just elderly, marginalization. The elders were honored because of their wisdom, because of their learning. The learned were honored. The wise were honored. Now it's the Hollywood stars who dress up like, I don't even want to say. Okay, so this is prophecy as well. This is a war against God, described in real time, and we can look outside, watch TV, we can look on the streets and see what's happening and see it is prophecy. Fearers of sin will be despised. Did you guys hear about this? Apparently there's a Canadian preacher, if I have that right, who protested a couple of times against little kids being forced to attend trans shows and was arrested. I might have the details wrong. I'm trying not to watch the news lately because it does not do good things for my body. But anyway, fears of sin will be despised, and not only despised, but acted against in some cases. The truth will be lacking. You can say that again. The truth will be lacking. Youths will put old men to shame. The old will stand up in the presence of the young, meaning serving the young. A son will revile his father. A daughter will rise up against her mother. A daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his household, who's experienced that in the last few years. The face of the generation will be like the face of the dog. Now that there's the explanation for that is that the face of the generation means the leaders of the generation, whether they're religious leaders or political leaders. What does it mean, a face of a dog? You know how you walk a dog and the dog runs, you're the boss of the dog, hopefully. The dog's running ahead, pulling on the leash, going wherever it wants, and then looking behind to make sure that the owner is following. So it's not actual leadership. It's leadership based on polls, leadership based on what you can get away with, leadership based on, the dog pulling the person. That's the kind of leadership that we have now. And that's prophecy thousands of years ago. A son will not feel ashamed before his father. So upon whom is it for us to rely? And this is the punchline of this whole life and of everything in the universe, actually. So upon whom is it for us to rely? Upon our Father who's in heaven. And guess what? We'll take it one step farther. Our Father who is in heaven is relying on us because we're the players in this game. We are the players. And so each one of us, and I'll just repeat, each one of us, we're being graded, like rubbed up, like sanded, like polished, like pressed, like the pearl in an oyster, right? So that we can become who we're here to be, who we really are. And when we understand that, and if you guys are interested, let me know what you want to hear about and be involved with me. And we can learn all about all of these things in so much more detail. And we can actually become a movement. I like hashtag Souls United. And really what it comes down to at this point is, which side are you on? So to be able to answer that question, you have to know that this is a spiritual war. You have to be able to distinguish. That's number one. You have to be able to distinguish between, what's good and what's evil. Guess what? When Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, good and evil got mixed up together to the point where you couldn't tell. That's what's getting worked out right now. Just BT dubs, like my kids say, BT dubs. So we have to be able to distinguish what's good and what's evil. For that, we have to become educated. We have to become wise. And for that, we have to become united together to explore deeper. And this is just the surface layer of things. And as we understand what's good and what's evil, we can lend our hearts, our intentions, our prayers, our sharing, whatever. We all have influence in one way or another. Go into the grocery store, you teach a class, you're in a class, you have a family, you have a community, you have neighbors, you have a platform. So it's up to each and every one of us to do these things and to become a part of the solution. It will happen fast. Things are going to accelerate more and more. Here's the thing. It's like the image I want to give you right now, and we're going to have to stop because I'm about ready to go on with Gila. I don't think she's doing it live. I think we're going to do a pre-record and she'll post it on her site. Maybe I should get a Telegram going also. Anyway, lots to do for all of us. Everyone here can be a center. But if you think about surfers, right? So the surfers paddle out. They paddle out to where they're big waves, because if they're not big waves, they don't make any moves. They can't go anywhere. They're like kind of dead in the water. But when you have a giant wave, yes, it's turbulent. Yes, it could be scary if you don't know how to surf. But if you know how to surf, if God is your surfboard, so to speak, you can ride that wave a long distance. Now we take it a step farther because we get to guide the wave. Imagine you had a steering mechanism and the wave follows you. And that's really how it is right now. And we're not used to taking ourselves in this level of seriousness or this level of magnificence or power, but we do have that. The more conscious, this is a divine law, the more conscious you are, the more aware you are of the blueprint and of the truth, the more connected you are to God and God's agenda, the more power every single thought, word, and action that you have will make for the world, not just for you. The big perk is that your life can get really, really good. Instead of being scared and impoverished, you can be, thriving and in abundance more and more as you learn the principles for, divine manifestation, for being part of the solution. But it's holographic, so everything you do will benefit you, the people in your life, and the world as a whole, if you're doing it on the right side and the right way. Okay, let me see what you guys have said. Thanks for hanging with me. I'm sorry I didn't look at the chat because I was looking at the website, www.thetruthaboutisrael.org. It hasn't been updated for since I think 2008. It was either 2008 or 2009. There is a commercial. There's the little video on the front page. It's about 60 seconds. It's called Our Claim to the Land. You might recognize my voice in it and a couple of my kids. It was made in Morristown, New Jersey, where I used to live, by a guy who was in first year advertising. But I love it because the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that when there's peace in Israel, there will be peace in the world, and there will be peace in Israel when we speak up about the truth about Israel. That's why I actually made the website. So listen to it and, let it move you. Or if it's controversial to you, feel free to reach out to me. It's a little in your face, but I think that we have to be a little in your face now, right? We have to stand for something. So hi to JD. Hi, it's swords for, I don't know how to read that. Thank you for being here and saying hi. Miriam S. from Tampico. I know Miriam. Do I look sad? I don't feel sad. This is scary. I'm talking about the same thing Rabbi Mizrahi was talking about. That's not scary. That's great. Although Rabbi Mizrahi, I don't listen to, I shouldn't say that. I don't agree with the hellfire approach. That's not the Rebbe's approach. The prophecies, like I said, positive prophecies must come true. Negative prophecy just has to catalyze something. What my experience, personal and professional, is that when we're scared, when we're terrorized, maybe we'll be good, so to speak, quote unquote, good for a minute, for an hour a day, but the life gets crushed out of us and we can't be who we are. What I'm here to say is just step up and start being who you are. If we dig you a little bit, if we like polish you a little bit, me too, and challenges can do that. And so can education, so can inspiration. When we polish ourselves up and we care enough to shine, inside is a lot of shining. There's nothing bad inside of any of us. There are people that are bad, that are playing that role. How they are in their deep inside, I don't know. It's a little beyond me. That's a level of mysticism that I really haven't gone into. I understand that only there's a tribe that represents a cosmic energy called Amalek, that they are irredeemable. That's an energy that's irredeemable of pure evil. But even the snake, the primordial snake, is ultimately for the good. It's a key of the divine plan. And in Gematria, in case you wondered, that's how you pronounce it. It's not gematria it's Gematria. And Gematria, which is Hebrew numerology, the equivalent of the numerological equivalent of the word for snake in Hebrew, nachash, is exactly the same as the word for Mashiach, Redeemer. It's the same number. So the snake, the darkness contains the light. So we just have to know that, work with it. Hi, Ruthie from Texas. Hi, Book Mouse. Titus would be another one. B'nai Noach. Yes, that's right. B'nai Noach. The healthcare industries and mental health industries and big pharma's influence has turned reality into something like an open-air experimental psych ward. That is true. That is so true and well said. It's, I think about it several times during the day. Sometimes I try not to think about it. I've got other things to do, but that I want to use my energy for the good in every level as much as I can, but I can't help but look. Sometimes I don't look, but most days I look several times. What's the latest? Usually it's just more blah, 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 or the same people warning us about things that they warned us, a year ago with dates that didn't happen, or they promised us, but yeah, sometimes I'm wondering what is going on here? Is this actually happening? Like Hashem, like what? It's really mind-boggling. I look at evil as a buffer for the growth of righteousness. Yeah, exactly. That's also true. But we want to wipe out the evil. It's time. We don't need that suffering anymore. We don't need it. And we have to also, that's another thing, which for another time, but I think it's really important to say, no, I've had enough. I'll take my growth another way. Thank you, please. And that's also a choice. The Rebbe used to say that Mashiach hasn't come because we don't actually want Mashiach, because we're happy, I'll quote him, with our vaultable carpeting. Now we're losing our vaultable carpeting, or, maybe our money's inflating. But whatever it is, we need to want the right things. And to do that, we have to be in touch with the deeper part of ourselves that already wants those things. And it doesn't mean we won't have the pleasures. When in the Messianic era, the Torah promises, we're not merging back into nothingness, which I think is going to be the topic that Gila wants to discuss. Every pleasure that we have now is going to be super intensified. And yet, as another prophecy says, the Rambam Maimonides says, Kol ma'adanim ka'afar tiyu, all delicacies will be like dust, meaning, double meaning, they'll be like dust of the earth, like universally plentiful, like everything will be available on a physical level, delicacy, gold, silver, candy, whatever. You won't need to go to the dentist. But it will also be like dust, like nobody cares about dust, who's collecting dust. Because the spiritual pleasure, and I have a feeling that even physically, spiritual pleasures will affect us physically. So the pleasure in spiritual things will be so much more intense that it will wipe out our interest in the super intensified physical pleasures, or pleasures in physical things. We will have physical pleasure, but I think the pleasure in physical things is what it's talking about. Baseball hat, Yeah, I just need something to we put up a whiteboard here, but I just need like another half a foot and it should be good. Or a curtain. Okay, the vessels are the movers and shakers for the master. An individual has to take the yoke of the narrative of the primes. Torah now. All right, I love Souls United. Saying Tehillim is a great thing to do. A great thing to do. I'm so happy that it helps you, Vanessa. I'm not committing myself to myself because that would overwhelm me, but that's another thing, you know, I'm a really big believer in free choice because when we do things out of should, like talk about fear or like excitement, when you do things because you're afraid, it's oppressive. But when you're not oppressed, you want to do the same things. You want to do them because we all want good things. We do. That's who we are. And that's where we are. They will beat their swords into plowshares. Okay. Okay, yeah, everyone's spreading fear. Okay, I gotta go. Sorry to cut off so abruptly, but thanks for being with me. I love the conversation. And if you want more of this, if you enjoy it, please like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. That's how we build Souls United, #Souls United. And use that hashtag anywhere you go. And let's see how fast God accelerates our wave. I think it's going to be good. Okay, see you next time.